Hey, sports fans, this is Robert with WTP Sports Dudes, here to do a preview of the Texas at Michigan game. Tomorrow, they play at 12 noon in Michigan in the big house in Ann Arbor. I'm very excited about this game, being a Texas fan, because as a fan of college football, you always want your team to play the best teams in college football so you can see where your college football program is at, the one that you root for. So I'm excited about this game. It's been a long time coming because, as you know, Michigan and Texas has only played one other time in the Rose Bowl in 2004, and we all know what the outcome of that game was, is really considered one of the best college football games ever. We all got to see VY, who was Vince Young, show out on that in that game, rushing for 200 yards and passing for over 250 yards in that game. It was an awesome game. Braylon Edwards balled out. Um, Michigan, I mean, they played an excellent game, and it came down to the wire, last second field goal by Texas to win it. It was an awesome game. So tomorrow, I believe we're going to see another good game. Um, Here are some of my thoughts on that game that I'm going to share with you. And then I'm going to talk about some of the thoughts that some of the other commentators out there have been sharing on their news, on their TV networks. So first, let me talk about Rick Neuheisel. I like Rick Neuheisel as a commentator. I like him. I liked him as a coach. One thing that I wish that he didn't do was talk about how he feels like Texas is just going to take it to Michigan. All teams they want bulletin board material, and I believe that Rick Neuheisel gave the Michigan Wolverines some bulletin board material because he talked about how they don't have a chance of beating Texas based on what he saw last week when they played Fresno State. And he feels like it's going to be a blowout, that Texas is going to hand it to Michigan. I mean, it's possible, but I'm going to break down the only way that it is possible because we all know that Michigan didn't fare too well last week against Fresno State. But that's a good football team over there in Michigan. So I'm going to break that down and what I think is going to happen. And I wish that Rick Neuheisel did not give the Michigan Wolverines that bulletin board material. You don't ever want your opponent to have bulletin board material that's going to get them revved up, even though you want to get their best shot. Also, um, Urban Meyer shared his thoughts, which I'm going to share a little bit later on. And also, Joe Clatt shared some of his thoughts, where I'm going to talk little bit about something that he said as well. But when you look at let's look at the Texas defense first against the Michigan offense. That saying is that if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have no quarterback. Well, maybe so. Now, if they start off with Davis, Warren, their best bet is to run, as Urban Meyer said, a pro style offense where they try to hit Texas with a bunch of um, double moves and things of that nature so that he can get the ball to his receivers down the field. I believe they have a chance to do some of that if they can get good blocking. They definitely got to make sure that their guards really handle what Texas is going to try to do to them up front. If their guards can play better than they played last week, they have a good chance of getting some passes off against Texas. But I do believe that that's probably not their best chance of beating Texas, running a pro style offense with Davis Warren on the field. I really believe that Coach PK and the crew will be able to scheme up some things because they already been working on this game plan for Michigan long before this game ever even came up. They was practicing this stuff in the spring. They were practicing it in fall camp. They've already been preparing for Michigan. All great teams and all great coaches already prepare for their major opponents way ahead of time. You cannot prepare for a good opponent the week of. It just doesn't happen. And I'm sure that Michigan did the same thing. They knew that they were going to be playing Texas, a good team, and I'm quite sure that Sharon Moore and his coaches already put in things for this Texas game back in the spring and re-emphasized it in the fall, getting ready for this game. But I do believe that the best chance that Michigan has is having Orgy play quarterback, and they run like an option style offense where he can have a run pass option in this game. I think their best chance is to be able to run the football at Texas. That's their best chance. And if they can run the football and they can get first downs and not have a lot of three and outs or 5 play drives, things like that, they can really make this game interesting because they're going to limit possessions for Texas's offense. And I think if Michigan runs that type of offense with Orgy out there with the running game, 2 tight ends, and go out there and decide, hey, listen, we just going to play smash mouth football. That's their best chance against Texas's defense. Because if they think they're going to go out there and throw the ball, it's probably not going to happen. Now, they should come out in the beginning of the game with Davis Warren, with something that Texas is probably not expecting, with a pass game. But then as the game goes on, they need to go ahead and decide we're going to run this run pass option game with Orgy and run options at Texas, something that they're probably not preparing for. Because no teams in college football prepare for the option unless you're going to play, I think it's Army that run the option style offense, or Air Force or Navy, whichever one of those military schools that run it, and then Georgia Tech. If you're not playing those teams, you're not practicing no option. So I think that's their best chance. Michigan's offense against Texas's defense. Because if they decide they're going to just throw the ball all over the field, it's not going to happen. They don't have the quarterbacks with the kind of arm talent to be able to throw the ball on Texas effectively. But they do have the talent to be able to run the football on Texas. I also believe that Texas defensively should really consider doubling um, uh, the tight end, Colton Loveland. I think that's his name. I think Colston Loveland. I really believe they should double team him as often as possible, especially on third downs, third and long, third and medium. They should double him because that's their best option at the receiving position is that tight end, Colston Loveland. So I believe that, I mean, and listen, if I'm saying this, believe me, Steve Sarkisian and his coaches know a lot more about football than I do because they're coaches. I got out the game years ago. And I'm quite sure I've never coached on that level like they have. So I know that they know that this is something that they're thinking about doing. And they probably already got that set in motion to do that against Michigan. But I do believe that if they try to pass the ball, they don't really have a good chance. And that's the way Texas can really open this game up on Michigan if they think they're going to run a passing game as opposed to a running game against Texas. Now let's look at Texas's offense against Michigan's defense. And Joe Clapp made a very valid point, which I mean, it may not be facts because we haven't seen it yet, but he made a very valid point. He stated, can Michigan's 2 defensive tackles play a game where they know they have to play more than 32 to 35 snaps a game? Now, last year, they played around 32 to 35 snaps a game. They had a serious rotation. In this game, does Michigan have backup defensive tackles that can come in and be as effective as their two starters? Do they have the depth that they need defensively to be able to compete with Texas? Because if they do what they did last week against Fresno State and they take out their best safety and their best corner for two series, believe me, Texas is going to score on both of them series. Because Steve Sarkisian is going to see that, and he's going to go after those defensive backs in the passing game. So can those guys stay out there on that field and play 65, 70 snaps if it comes to that? Now, of course, Michigan is going to try to run the ball, in my opinion, and limit the amount of possessions that Texas gets. Now, but if Texas can get 8 possessions in this game, they got a really good chance if if they got long sustained drives to be able to tire out some of Michigan's defenders if they can't go too deep and be effective in there too deep. Which I don't know if Michigan has that kind of talent yet. Those guys are young, that are backups, and I don't know if they've had that kind of playing time and played in games this high caliber like they're going to see tomorrow from a well-coached Texas team. So I'm thinking that Texas is probably going to make sure that they run probably some 10 personnel. When Texas going to 10 personnel, that means they're going with one running back and two and no tight ends. One running back, no tight ends. And then what they're probably going to do is take that running back and have him go out in the pass uh, in that game, out for a pass, so that Michigan's linebackers get locked up on those speedy receivers. Because at that time you got four wideouts out there, and you got the running back coming out of the backfield. So I'm really thinking that Michigan is going to probably have to, if they go with three linebackers, they're going to be in trouble. They cannot go with three linebackers against a pro-style offense like Steve Sarkisian runs at Texas. They're probably going to have to get one of those linebackers off the field and put another defensive back in there, nickel back in this game, because Texas is going to try to spread them out and find and hunt matchups. This is where Amari Niblock really comes into effect, because he can be that fourth receiver. Even though he's a tight end, he can line up as a receiver and just hunt matchups with him all day. Because Texas really is not, they're not going to abandon the run, but they're really not focused on trying to run the ball a whole lot against Michigan. They're going to throw short routes, screens, all of that kind of stuff, spread Michigan out and getting those big linemen out there on those linebackers and those defensive backs blocking. And that's where they're going to try to take advantage of Michigan and slow down that pass rush from them corners by throwing quick throws. And if they cannot slow Texas down with the passing game, Texas is going to take advantage of them. And eventually, they're going to start cracking some of those runs through the middle, because that's what they're going to look to do. They're going to look to get the short passing game going and get Michigan out of position so that they can start running, especially in the fourth quarter. That's what Texas is going to want to do, to go ahead and run out that clock, especially if they get to 20 points. So Joe Clapp mentioned that. Can those defensive tackles play long enough and play more than 32 to 35 snaps? If they get up to 45, 50 snaps, are they still going to be as effective as they are when they only have to play 32 to 35 snaps? And you probably thinking to yourself, oh man, what's another 10 snaps? Another 10 snaps is a lot, because that's two more possessions. When you're talking about 10 to 15 snaps, that's two possessions. So that's a lot of playing out there on the football field. You want to have guys that you can bring out there to give those guys a break, so that they can be fresh in that fourth quarter. Because if your starters are not fresh in the fourth quarter, a team will beat you down. And I saw that 3 years ago watching Texas because they didn't have the depth. And if Michigan's depth is not as talented as their starters, or at least close, they're going to probably be in for a long night. And Urban Meyer also said that he believes that Michigan should run a pro style. If they run their pro style offense, they need to make sure that they can get the ball to Colston Loveland with Davis Warren. But if they do decide they want to run the football, they need to go with an option style offense with Origin. And I believe that's the key to their success too, is running the ball with Orgy after they've thrown a wrinkle in there in the beginning of the game, passing it. Because Texas probably is not looking to think that Michigan is going to throw the ball on them early in the game. They're going to probably try to uh, impose their will on Texas. It's probably what the Texas coaches are probably thinking. So I'm anxious to see how that's going to go. I really do believe that this game, I don't think it's going to be close as I first thought. After seeing Michigan play, I really don't think it's going to be as close as I first thought. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, though. I do not think it's going to be a blowout. But I don't think that Michigan is going to be able to score 20 points on Texas. But I do believe Texas has a much better chance of scoring 20 points on Michigan than Michigan has scoring 20 points on Texas. And I do believe that the first 1 to 20 can win this game. 20 points is that magic number, in my opinion. If you can get to 20 points, you definitely are going to win that game. So the first 1 to 20 will win it. And I believe that just by what I've seen from both teams and what they want to do. So hopefully it turns out to be a really good game. The weather is really going to be is going to play a role in this game because it's only going to be in the 50s, which is advantage Michigan. Now, in a couple of years, when Michigan comes to Texas, y'all better hope that Fox does not get that game because they're going to have y'all in that Texas heat, 100 degrees on the field, 120 degrees on the field, second week of the season, high noon. And I'm telling you, that's what Texas love. They love to bring opponents into that in DKR Stadium and go ahead and take you out into the deep heat and then just suffocate you. That's what they love to do, especially when they got the talent like they have now and like they're going to have for the next 3, 4, 5 years. They're going to be legit contenders to win a national championship. So whenever they play Michigan again, I think they play them in 2027. Yeah, because they got Ohio State in 25 and 26. And I think they get Michigan again in 27. And believe me, they're going if Fox gets this game, they're going to have it at high noon. And it's going to be hot in Austin, the way Texas love it. They love for Fox to get that game so that they can take teams from up north or wherever they from that ain't used to that heat, take them out to that heat, and then just suffocate. So hopefully we get a good game tomorrow, and hopefully my Longhorns prevail. But I really do believe it can be a good game. And if it turns out to be a blowout, I'm not calling that, but I think that Texas has a much better chance of beating Michigan by 2 scores, 2 touchdowns, than Michigan has of beating Texas by 2 touchdowns. Now I know all my Michigan buddies, when they come on the show next week, they're going to be probably upset about this video I just made, but I'm just giving my opinion on what I think. And we all tight, we all cool, so they're going to forgive me, no doubt. So, hopefully Texas can pull out this victory tomorrow at noon. I know the whole country is going to be tuning in because this is the game of the day. College game day is going to be in Ann Arbor. It's going to be lit. I'm excited. I always want to see Texas play against the best competition in college football, like they did 2 years back to back against Alabama. They took Alabama to the wire in Texas, and they beat up on Alabama last year by 10. And I really believe that Texas has a chance to do the same thing to Michigan in Ann Arbor if they can get some three and outs and tire down Michigan's defense. If they can do that, then they can take hold of this game early and go ahead and put it away early and go ahead and run the clock out on them in that fourth quarter. So that's all I have for you on my preview of Texas and against Michigan tomorrow. So hopefully my Longhorns prevail. Hook 'em.